Within a dark, ominous forest filled with strange creatures and a deep mythology, a little girl named Shiva was seemingly abandoned here. Waiting for the return of her auntie, she navigates and survives within this dark fantasy landscape with the help of one unlikely protector, known only as Teacher, a bizarre horned goat-like creature that has taken it upon himself to protect and provide for this young girl, warding off other monsters, feeding her, putting her to bed, and making sure she stays optimistic for the hope of her rescue someday and when her auntie returns, which is likely never going to happen. All the while having to neglect her pleas to be picked up and hugged because only a single touch would infect Shiva with the same curse that has deformed Teacher. The Girl from the Other Side takes place in a fantasy world where the kingdoms of mankind have isolated themselves away from these dark forests called the Outside, due to the infective curse that has befell them. If touched by a cursed person, you yourself will then become cursed as well, and within a short amount of time, transform into one of these dark beasts. But also, you slowly lose aspects of your humanity. You lose your ability to feel, to have the sensation of touch. You no longer desire food, you no longer desire sleep, and soon after that, your memory of your former self will begin to fade until you're nothing but a shadow of who you once were. Humans in this world are incredibly hostile of the cursed ones, even killing those who have been suspected to have been touched by one in an attempt to both save them from experiencing the curse themselves, but mostly out of fear that they will then infect more people around them. The story mostly follows the isolated adventures of Teacher and Shiva while slowly expanding and explaining the lore throughout its run, along with surrounding Shiva herself with so much mystery, not the least of which is why she was abandoned in this forest, but she also seems to have a unique immunity from the curse itself. The manga balances the lines of being incredibly wholesome, but also intensely dark from time to time. It's not overly violent. There's a little bit of gore, but not much. But most of the horror comes from the atmosphere of the dark forest where it takes place and the looming threats of danger, both from the forest itself and from mankind once they venture in, and especially when the kingdoms become aware of Shiva living in the forest. As well, much of the horror aspects revolve around the curse itself and the effects that it has on people. It takes something that's a real intense fear, such as losing your memories and forgetting people in your life and the things that are close to you, much like Alzheimer's, but on a much faster acting scale, and how tragic it must be, not just for the person going through losing the memories, but also for the loved ones that have to witness this happening in real time. Also, the aesthetic of the art lends itself into that Gothic horror style. It reminds me of the way the dead trees and forest looked in the movie Sleepy Hollow. In fact, I'm sure that Tim Burton would absolutely love this manga if he knows about it. There's lots of simplistic, cute drawings contrasted with the dark, bleak, black backgrounds, both within the forest and even within the kingdoms and its dungeons. The foreground is often showing something cheerful while the background stays ominous. But although the story's title references Shiva, the little girl, most of the story's POV is from Teacher, her cursed protector. Lacking most of his human emotions, he often struggles to relate and open himself up to her, and yet at the same time, he is deeply loyal to her. And part of the story's appeal is figuring out why he's with her in the first place, but also why he cares so deeply about her, which I will not spoil here. But when the danger starts to emerge, he begins to put himself into some seriously dark scenarios in order to ensure her safety. Meanwhile, there are so many ominous messages coming from the other cursed ones within the forest, or maybe even entities within the forest that have never even been human in the first place. There's a lot to discover, and it continues to expand as the manga goes on. It will definitely give you a fable or fairy tale like vibe, something you would read in the middle of the night, perhaps to your children, but of course, then it gets a little bit darker. And for a good while, it will feel incredibly wholesome, while you're watching this makeshift family just do daily tasks. But as hopeful as Shiva is, Teacher knows nobody is coming to get her. Well, not until the prophecies about the girl in the woods start to become a little bit more well known within the kingdoms of humanity, and how she might be a vessel that they need in order to reach some kind of salvation. But Shiva herself is just as wholesome as possible, bringing so much joy and levity to the story. She's just a little girl. She wants to play, she wants to cook, she wants to go on walks, and she really respects the parental figures that she's had in her life, whether they be human or cursed ones. I'm not a parent myself, but I could imagine, and if you are, specifically if you have a daughter, I think that this manga will probably give you a particular kind of heartwarming feel that definitely captivated me, and I don't even have kids. There's even a fantastical feel within the family dynamic in that because this takes place in sort of a past society and within a cabin in the woods, there's no modern day technological distraction. All day long is spent just being with each other, doing daily tasks, making food, having fun, telling stories, and it kind of makes you wish for that simple life or the simple life that a family could have. You know, if you ignore all of the cursed abominations in the woods and the soldiers coming to kill you, that kind of stuff. But I think that's part of the tragedy, other than the curse itself, of course, is that Shiva is just a little girl, and she just wants to play and adventure, but it's the world around her that is waiting at every turn to begin to traumatize that innocent mind. As a parent, it's such a double-edged sword that you so desperately want to protect your child from the dangers and insanity of the world and let them be as carefree and innocent as they can for as long as possible, but then you also have to let them know and prepare them for the world's danger, as someday they will have to face it on their own. At some point, innocence will be lost, and the frustration of teacher as a parental figure to try to navigate the best ways to inform her and yet still allow her to be a child are some of the most compelling moments of the manga for me. You know that this piece won't last forever, and maybe that's similar to the looming fear that being a parent will give you. Knowing that as great as things are now and as happy as she may be, inevitably there will be pain, there will be heartache, and there will be that coming of age that changes you forever. For the manga itself, it's about 50 chapters long, so it's not a terribly long read, and I think it's paced pretty well for the length. There was a point where I felt like it could have ended a bit sooner, maybe about 10 chapters earlier, because the final volume is kind of like an epilogue that delves deeper into Teacher's past and how and why he was cursed, as well as his first encounter with Shiva, and then cuts back to present day to officially end the story. I think it works well, even though they do overly explain the lore in this portion of the story. Maybe they felt like readers wouldn't understand it, so it's explained over and over multiple times in different ways, which actually just makes it feel more confusing rather than just explaining it once. But that being said, I did like the explanations, but it could divide people because it's extremely bittersweet and probably not at all what you would expect from the initial setup. But overall, I really enjoyed this story as it satisfied both my love for Gothic aesthetics and gave me some genuine wholesome moments combined with dark intensity when needed. And like I said, it's not that long. I was able to read it in about a day or two. I know there was a short anime adaptation, and it looks like it has some fantastic artwork and animation in its own right, but it doesn't have enough time to follow the manga storyline, so it's just a tiny piece of the puzzle. It might be worth watching. I don't know. I haven't seen it, but the entire story will not be told there. For that, you have to go to the manga. But if you need some dark fairy tale atmosphere to read on some night during a full moon to put you maybe into that fall October horror vibe, then hey, I would definitely recommend The Girl from the Other Side. Thanks for watching this review, guys. Let me know if you have read this manga down below in the comments. If not, let me know if you're curious about checking it out. Leave all your thoughts, comments, and opinions down there. As always, guys, thank you for watching this video and thank you for the support. If you want to support the channel on a deeper level, check the description because I do have links to my Patreon, channel memberships, merch store, and all the social media links where you can follow me down there. Other than that, guys, I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day, and I'll talk to you next time.